All gave some gave all. Some would march on, others would fall. There are no winners in war when you consider the cost. You cannot justify the thousands of lives for our own that were lost. Wars leave scars that in time may fade, but not without taking a toll. However, the deepest wounds are those that scar the very heart and soul. For those that saw action during wartime, I'm sure without a doubt, they've had to live with the memories of fallen comrades, their brothers, someone they cared deeply about. And all the families left behind with only their memories to carry them through, also paying the price of freedom won for me and you. We are all aware that times have changed, and yet there are certain things we must never forget. Be proud of our flag, and long may she wave, and long may we remember what so many gave.
Hi, my name is Jerry Jaden. I live here in Norfolk, Nebraska. I'm a member of the ALR Code 16 here in Norfolk, and have been for several years. I entered the service in 1966. I was classified 1A at the time. I was unable to get a job. Nobody would hire me because of my classification. So myself and a couple other friends volunteered for the draft, and we went in. I was the only one that went to Vietnam, and I was 19 at that time. I served actually 21 months in the Army. Our first sergeant over in Vietnam allowed 6 of us to stay an extra 30 days so we could get an early out when we came home. And that was a big deal. I think my biggest challenge while I was in there was being away from home. I missed my family and my friends. The worst day I had was we had an ammo dump blow up, and we thought we lost some friends during that mishap, but they were picked up and lifted out by a helicopter and reunited. I still have close friends that I keep in touch with regularly. I've lost two of them, well, more than 2 recently. We were exposed to Agent Orange. At this time, I'm in pretty good health, but I have friends that aren't doing so well. So maybe it's due to my lucky dollar bill. I saved this back when they made us turn all of our U.S. currency in on the ship. We went over by ship, the whole battalion, and I carried that with me every day, and I still have it. When I came home in '67, there wasn't a whole lot said, I guess, at that time. But I feel in the last few years, our age group has been noticed, and we get thank yous all the time. Really appreciate it. The service definitely affected my life, and it made me grow up and mature. And I think I wish everyone could go in and serve at least 2 years and just experience it, what it's like. If nothing else, they learn how to be disciplined. Very, very rewarding. I have, like I said, I have several friends that I keep in touch with by phone and email, and personally also. So that's 3 years ago, I was able to get in touch with one of my friends that I hadn't seen in 53 years. And that was pretty special. Sorry, that's about all I got to say.
In the Army. I was in Korea in the heavy artillery. I was there before the ceasefire, so we got in a lot of the combat. And one day, about I think 6 or 7 days before the ceasefire, an artillery round came in and hit 3 of us. I ended up in the hospital in Japan for almost 2 months, and I was well enough to get back to my outfit. One of my buddies got a big piece in the back, and he ended up going home. And the third one, they found parts of him laying around. They figured the round hit him directly. And the one that was killed, he was from Jim Rennie. He was from, I found out, New York. And I just did a bunch of tracing and stuff. And about 2 years ago, I found who his wife was originally, and I visited with her, and she asked me some questions about if he had suffered in that, and I told him no, but they had 2 little boys. They figured I was about 10 yards away from where the shell landed, but I came out of it, had some problems, hearing problems, because with the big guns, we weren't wearing any hearing protectors or anything like that. So I got a lot of hearing problems. And, well, it's something that makes me feel proud to be an American. I helped do my job in the service. And I learned a lot while I was in the service. I've had good experiences there, and I've had some real bad experiences there. But
Hi, my name is Marla Steven. I'm a retired Chief Warrant Officer 3. I was living actually in Pierce, Nebraska when I enlisted in the Army National Guard. I spent 21 years with the Guard and Reserves, spending most of my time stateside, but getting to travel to Iraq, Colombia, El Salvador, South America, and then my last deployment was Africa. I now live in Norfolk and have been here since I retired. My biggest challenge and reward while on active duty, so we spent medevac in Iraq in OIF 06 to 08. Most stressful job, but it is a reward, saving lives. Got to see the best and the worst of people. And I still run into people that I flew with during that combat time and then throughout afterwards too. So my favorite duty place was Africa. We got to see and spend a lot of time with the local people. Got to experience some of their culture and then see just different countries within Africa. After leaving the service and retiring in August of 2019, I still fly for a living. I fly for a company here in Nebraska. The military service affected my job, so it gave me great training, gave me great life experiences, more so than I think some of my counterparts in the civilian world. It just gave me a broader experience level to make more sound decisions. Life after leaving the service has been pretty up and down, I would have to say. When you're part of the service and you're part of your unit, you're part of something bigger than you. I think the biggest challenge for us is after you redeploy to the States or come out of a combat theater, you kind of miss that everyday camaraderie, because let's face it, we all lose a year of our life to where your family keeps going on and you just kind of lose it. So it's been pretty rough. You lose the structure, you lose the camaraderie, you actually have to live day-to-day life in the civilian world, which is a struggle after the military for some. So.
Good morning. I am Bob Hoffman. I was living here in Norfolk about a year out of high school when I was volunteered for the military when I was 18 years old. My parents were always very patriotic. Coming through school, we played music and band and patriotic songs and parades, and I also have an uncle that is in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean now. He lost him out of a bomb in World War II. So the patriotism was always there. So during the 60s, 1967, when I went into military, volunteered for the draft at 18 years old, I was wanting to serve my country. I remember growing up seeing World War II folks and the winning we did in various wars, and we all wanted to be winners. So I thought we wanted to be successful and support our country, so that's why I went in. While in the service, I was in the service till 1970. I spent 3 years in. I was accepted and volunteered and attended officer candidate school and received a commission as a commissioned officer in 1968. Not thinking that I was going to be going to war, because I was assigned at a little post down in Oklahoma. So my wife and I got married in December on Christmas leave, and got my orders to go to Vietnam in January, a month later. So it was tough going over there. I was assigned a pretty high job at a battalion level as a lieutenant. Did duty on even though I was a combat engineer, I did duty for a year in an ordnance battalion, and we supplied ordnance to the northern half of the war. So the worst day of being in the service was over there in the war, of course. We had a tremendous amount of perimeter to maintain. I had 300 people on the perimeter overnight. We had 15 miles of perimeter. We had 145 pads of ammo. And the fall of '69, they blew the heck out of us. And that was the worst day over there. How did I get through it? I got through it through my religion. I'm so proud of my parents and my family and my brothers, because living up as we did, I have 3 brothers, And so there's 4 boys in the family, and 3 of the 4 served, and 3 of us are all Vietnam veterans. Upon returning in March of 1970 from the war, I got out of the military, and my younger brother and one of his classmates went over a month later because they were already in the Army, so they went to war. Well, it was probably 3 months later, we lost my wife's only younger brother because he was KIA in Cambodia. So that's my story. I'm proud I served. I learned so much in the military: leadership, teamwork, cooperation. It's helped me tremendously in civilian life.
About noon on November 22, 1943, Jack volunteered to take water to some Marines who were pinned down. As he stood up, he was hit in the head by Japanese machine gun fire, according to a letter the family received from one of his Marine Corps buddies. He died immediately and did not suffer one bit, the Marine wrote. Jack's body was hastily buried by his fellow Marines. Like half of the 1,069 Americans who perished during close quarters fighting November 20th through 23rd, 1943, his remains were never identified, though records indicated he had been buried in Row D of Cemetery 33 on BTO. That row was never found. On October 7, 1949, a military review board declared his remains to be non-recoverable. Almost 60 years later, in 2008, members of a Florida-based nonprofit called History Flight Incorporated began surveying BTO for graves after studying archival maps. They identified at least 5 possible burial sites. They shared their findings with JPAC, a predecessor organization to the Defense POW MIA accounting agency. History Flight surveyors finally found the Row D remains in 2019, and the DPAA recovered them. 22 caskets arrived at the agency's Hawaii laboratory in July 2019. PFC Jack Langen's identification is one of 18 of the Row D group announced so far.
My name is Mike Unger. I was living in Norfolk, Nebraska when I enlisted in the Army at age 18. I spent most of my time in West Germany after basic training in Alabama. For those of you that know what an MOS stands for, I was a 95 Bravo. I was a military policeman, and I spent my entire 2-year enlistment overseas, primarily in Frankfurt, West Germany, which was headquarters of 5th Corps and the largest contingent of military people in West Germany at that time, at the height of the Cold War. I'm very fortunate that I had the opportunity to be in the Army. It's obviously led to a civilian job. I'm in my 40th year as a law enforcement officer and currently serve as the Stanton County, Nebraska Sheriff. I think a lot of where I'm at today is a simple fact that I was lucky enough to have the military experience and the ability to serve my country. What did I do after I left law enforcement is a simple question. And the answer is simply, I do the same thing I did in the military. When I was in the Army, I was fortunate to be attached to a white hat military police unit in Frankfurt, where all I did was law enforcement duties. I did see a lot of activity at that time, and unfortunately I saw a lot of death and things of that nature. GIs had a tough time themselves on the weekends, and Frankfurt was the hub. That's where people came to let off their steam, and sometimes they got into trouble, which meant that they had to deal with the military police. I would recommend today, anyone that's thinking about the military, I think it's one of the best things you can do. I think it's a chance to grow up. I know that if I hadn't had that drill sergeant stick that boot in my butt, I might not be where I'm at today. So I thank that drill sergeant every day. I had a female drill sergeant, and I remember her name very well. I think of her often, wonder if she's even still alive, because she made such an impact on my life. Some of the best friendships I ever had were those that I've met in the military. I stay in touch with several. Even though I haven't seen some of them in over 30 years, I still remember our times in the military as being some of the best times, because we counted on each other because we were so far away from home. Being 5,000 miles away from home, even what is considered peacetime, but at the height of the Cold War was still tough. Back then we didn't have cell phones or computers that we could stay in instant contact. I made a home phone call once a month collect from the main Bahnhof, which is the main train station in Frankfurt, and I paid $50 to make one collect call a month for 5 minutes. That's how we stayed in touch back then. That is something that most people don't even realize. You wrote letters. And when you got those letters, it made such a big difference in your life, because you got a touch of home, and you got to see things that were going on back home that you had no way of knowing short of that letter. But I believe the military is one of the most proud things, one of the most honorable things any person can do. And I believe it's an asset to any young person. And I ask everyone to consider it. I think those in the military today are classified as heroes, because they're out there sacrificing in different war zones throughout the world. And it's just so important that we support our military at all times. One of my favorite things I like to say is, I always stand for the flag and I kneel for the cross. And I think it's important that we all respect our American flag and realize that thousands upon thousands of people have died for that flag. And I'm proud to say that I was willing to do so. And I just hope that other people will realize that those that have lost their lives have done so for you and for I, so that we can have our freedom. And I'm just here to say, always think of veterans, because without them, none of us would have the freedoms we have today. And it's so important that we let them know how much we really do care about them. Thank you.
I'm Bob Simpson. I was living in Battle Creek, Nebraska when I was drafted into the Army in 1952 at 20 years of age. I was in the service for 1 year and 9 months. Most of the time I served in Korea during the Korean War. I now reside in the Norfolk Veterans Home. My least favorite duty was guard duty.
It didn't seem so great at the time, but it was a good experience, because I think it does a young person good to learn how to take orders and give orders and do a little of everything. Well, I'd like to say thank you to all veterans, because we were all in this together.
And on closing, I just want to convey our appreciation and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, veterans, and to those who shared their stories and for standing up for Old Glory. We all know freedom isn't free. There's a huge price paid for all our liberties. God bless America, land of our birth, and God bless America, the greatest nation on earth.